And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Steve McCready. And Steve, thank you, first of all, for spending some time with me and being my guest.
I appreciate the opportunity, Michael. Good to talk to you.
Well, it's going to be a fun conversation. So Steve is a business coach with a background as in psychology. I'll let him explain more about that, but it's really understanding the psychology behind success and what is it as entrepreneurs that really I'd say that keeps us from staying focused, productive, and confident, because there are some barriers there that I think Steve has some very unique expertise that I want to dig out and share with you today. So, Steve, again, thanks for being here. Tell me, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, it's been kind of a long roundabout journey. I would not have guessed or predicted it, and I certainly didn't plan for it at the beginning. So, as so many people I think do when we're growing up, I had a whole bunch of different ideas about things that I wanted to do or to be when I grew up. And none of them were either psychotherapy or coaching. And I went to college thinking I was actually going to become either a chemist or a writer. And then a semester of college convinced me that neither of those things were in the cards for me for various reasons. Got out of school, mostly just happy to have graduated, because it turns out that was a real challenge for me academically, and I had to learn a lot of new stuff. And then, went found a career in IT, which I did for a few years, which I was both good at, but found ultimately very unfulfilling. And that led to me really having to kind of step back and zoom out and kind of ask myself, okay, what matters to me? What feels meaningful and important and valuable to me? Because it's one thing to be good at work, but it's another thing to actually feel like the work matters.
Absolutely.
And so that led to me doing some career counseling and some other things, which led to me deciding to go to grad school to get a master's degree, something I swore I'd never do when I graduated from undergrad, but did, and then got my degree there, got my psychotherapy license, opened a private practice in 2006. And then as I was doing that, it was definitely a big step forward, much better than the IT work had been for me. But as I kind of continued to play around with that, and really the work of helping people become more fully expressed, more powerful, more empowered versions of themselves, I had a couple of opportunities come up to be able to work with people in a little bit of a different context, more towards the idea of coaching and such.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool, because I can take these tools that I've learned about helping people understand themselves, to see themselves better, to get out of their own way, and I can apply them in a different context, in this context of business and in career, and really helps me to be able to help people who are doing cool things in the world. To be able to do those more powerfully, more effectively, and more impactfully. Because while I'm not someone who's going to start one of those businesses, I can help the people who do be able to be more impactful with them. And so for me, it's like this. I really love working with people who are trying to use business as a force for good, to be able to do that more effectively and more powerfully. Because I think that's actually one of the ways we can really do some transformative work in a world that could use some transformation.
Just a bit, yeah. um, Very cool. You had a lot in there that I want to kind of dive into and unpack, because business owners, we are great at coming up with ideas and ways to change the world, and there are lots of books and tools and tips of how to be more focused or productive or comment or whatever. And what I heard you saying without saying it, I think this is right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times we get stuck at some point, and we look for the natural how to blank, right? And so many times what's sticking us is an inner barrier. And it's really, I think what you bring to the table is an almost an inside out approach to helping business owners break through. Is that fair?
Yes, I think that's actually really well said, Michael. Obviously there are a lot of things from a tactical and action standpoint that are absolutely required to be able to build a business and make it successful. But there's a lot that's going on with humans that is not obvious or visible to us. And I won't get into a big neuroscience lecture, but suffice it to say, our brains filter out a whole lot of data that we end up not being consciously aware of. And that can be both a good thing and a bad thing. And so, yes,
Yeah.
my job is to see the stuff that people can't see in themselves or about themselves and to help bring that to light, because often in there are some of the obstacles and problems that are getting in the way. It's not just, just do it. It has its place, but it's also kind of a simplistic answer because sometimes it's not that easy. But also in unpacking these things and uncovering them, we sometimes find people, or even often, have strengths or gifts that really they don't even fully understand, or at least don't fully acknowledge. And so part of this is also about helping them to embrace those more fully and express them more powerfully as well.
Yeah. And so many times in situations like this, when I've talked with people, or when I've been in had different coaches, because I've had coaches for over a decade in different realms and things, what I find are coaches are really good at asking great questions.
Yeah.
And I think the questions many times are even more important than the answer, because I can't get there. Is that what you find?
I would say that that's true, right? There's coaching and consulting have some overlap. There's a bit of a Venn diagram there, but one area where there's, I think, is a big difference is consultants are going to do a lot more advice giving.
Mm,
Our job as coaches is often more to encourage people to look around in places where they might not be looking, right? And so my job is often asking questions to get you to poke around in a spot you might ignore or
yeah.
avoid or whatnot, or sometimes to share something I'm seeing that maybe you're not. But yeah, I have a friend who's a coach, and he likes to say he can see around corners. Is his way of kind of describing it.
Love it.
I jokingly say, like, I don't read minds. It just feels like it sometimes, because
Right.
I can sometimes make really educated guesses about what's going on because of my training, but it does help me to be able to see, or to get people to see things they aren't. And it's like, I mean, imagine trying to solve any problem when you only have half of the data that actually relates to the problem. Good luck. Kind of hard.
Seriously. Yeah, very much so. And the other cool thing about, and I'm a big fan of people hiring coaches and consultants, because we need an outside set of eyes looking at us, right? I'm a marketing guy, Steve, but I've got 2 or 3 marketing coaches for my company because I'm just too close to it to see it, right? And I
Oh,
think the same
absolutely.
thing. I think the same thing happens in business as we get going. And I looked at how you help business owners become more focused, more productive, and more confident. And I looked at those. I thought those are really good. I have found, at least in my life and a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with, it's that last one, that confidence level.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but we all feel like we're masquerading or something, or we're imposter syndrome or whatever. Once I start fixing that, the rest is easier to fix, I find.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it often comes down to a confidence issue or a clarity issue, and the other things are byproducts of it. But we live in a world that gives us such a wildly distorted and inaccurate picture of how our experience is supposed to be, whether it's of life, whether it's of business.
Mhm.
It's so distorted, and we start comparing what we're experiencing to what we're seeing, and we're like, uh-oh, something's wrong with me. And it's
Yeah,
like, I that's part of a big part of my work with clients, is helping them see, no, nothing's wrong with you. There's just a bunch of stuff here that
yeah,
people don't talk about,
that's right.
but we can unpack it, we can sort it out. And once they get a clearer and more accurate perspective, it starts to change things, and they start to understand differently what's going on for them. And that really helps them to be able to take action. And, confidence is really a byproduct
Mhm.
of action and of certain things. But we've got to often get people unstuck
Yeah.
before much of anything's going to happen, versus spinning in their heads, trying to figure out what thing they're supposed to do. And you can't solve it in your head.
You really can't. One of my favorite phrases that I use now is think on paper. And I'm a big fan
Yes,
of it. And I tell people all the time, to just sit down with a pad of paper and get a question and start writing, because otherwise it's like spaghetti in my head and I keep going around. Think on paper, get it out there. But to have somebody like Steve who the thing I love about coaches, Steve, is you've worked with so many people across such varied backgrounds and industries. You can bring somebody else in who's struggling with somebody that, oh, by the way, nobody else has ever dealt with this. And you're sitting over there going, yeah, no, I've seen this like 20 times. And that's why you have that ability to read the mind,
exactly.
right?
Right. Because I see, you know, we get to see patterns and things that just other people don't necessarily see or gets talked about. But yeah, I can't tell you the number of times I've had a client talking about some issue and they'll be like, I must be the only person you've ever heard talk about this, or there must be something wrong with me. And I'm like, I talked with two people about this exact same issue earlier today.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
And, and and I think we need to hear that to go, oh. So number one, Steve's got this breadth of knowledge, of perspective, more
Yeah.
so that he can help you see things. It's not, I mean, don't take this wrong. It's not that he's so stinking brilliant. It's just that he has the background, right? And
Yeah.
can see things. We all can do that in certain areas. The other thing that I wanted to touch on here, if I can get back to it, is I've got confidence, productivity, and focus. Yeah, all the books that are out there and everything, all hinge on really your why.
Yes.
Why? And you mentioned that earlier. I want to dive in here because I've spent the last 13 years building my company, right? And I'm around some really successful entrepreneurs, but there's so much noise out there. And I don't know if you know this, Steve, but everybody has built a 7, 8, or 9-figure business.
Right. I know. How is that
Really?
possible?
But that's what we hear, and we're
I
judging ourselves on
know.
that. And I realized a year or two ago, it's like, I don't even know if that's my goal, because
Yeah.
I'm more interested in legacy and building into my family and serving the kingdom of God and just doing things to go, that really has nothing to do with building a 7-figure bit. Do you know? Here's my question. Then we'll go. Do you know, Steve, how many people on earth care if I have a 7-figure business?
I suspect the answer might be zero.
Me. That's it.
Yeah,
Just
maybe.
me. The guy in the mirror. That's it. Other than that, nobody cares. And once I came to grips with that, it was like,
Mhm.
wait a minute. So what am I really after? And that builds into confidence and things. I mean,
Yes.
thoughts on that?
The question I like to ask my clients is, what is the experience of life you want to have? Because
Ooh,
I
that's good.
think because we spend most of our time on the journey,
Yeah.
right? We're these destinations, these goals, they're good as checkpoints, but that's really all they are. We're not there very long and we kind of go on to the next thing, but it's the journey. And there's any number of different ways you can travel. It's like a road trip, right? You can take a car, you could walk, ride a bike, you could take a train, a plane, whatever. It's just like, but how do you want to travel? And every choice has trade-offs. And it's
Yeah.
really about finding what's the right deal for you and why is that the right deal for you? Is
Yeah.
it truly driven by internal values, beliefs, or things? Or is it driven by like, well, that's what I'm supposed to want or supposed to do, which is a thing
Right.
it's so easy to get caught up in. So I don't mean to diminish that at all, because we live in a world with so much noise telling us what we're supposed to do and what's right and blah, 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 blah. It's really hard to tune into that internal voice. But the reality is, what is one person's ideal life would be a horrible thing for another person. So we've got to find that for ourselves and what that might be. And hey, if it is a 7, 8, 9-figure business, awesome. It may
Great.
well not be,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
You've got to figure out what that is, because those things come with some serious trade-offs.
They really do. They really do. And they never tell us about that on the front end.
No, I know. Well, because you can do it in 4 hours a week, right?
Oh, yeah. 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 Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Talk about how, because I know my audience is resonating with this, and they're struggling with different areas, but what does it look like to work with you? Is it a short term? Is it a 3-month, 9-month? Is it a year? Or is it a lifetime? I mean, how different, and
Sure.
let's talk about that first.
So the way it starts, like, initially when I first work with somebody, I always do a 2-month agreement initially, and that's to give us a chance to kind of, it's a little bit of a trial, it's a little bit of a thing to, let's do some things. We can always get some good stuff done in a couple months, but it's
Hmm.
not too long of a commitment, because what I want is them to really feel comfortable before we dive in deeper, but to make sure that gives me long enough time to know I can make sure I'm providing some value to them. And then
Yeah.
after that, I work with my clients in 6-month blocks. Okay, so it's 6 months at a time. We're meeting, a few times a month, but also I'm available to them between. So I'm really there. Like, it's like I'm there to be a support and a resource for you. And so I always tell my clients this. It's like, it basically comes down to, I will work with you as long as, one, I feel I can be of help or value to you, and two, you feel like the time, energy, and money you're investing in working with me is getting you an adequate return. And as long as those two things are true, great. If they're not, then we need to step back and see if that can be fixed, or if not, maybe that means our time together is done, and that's okay.
Yeah. And I love that. And that's okay, because I've transitioned in and out of different coaching programs, and it always feels weird. It's like, oh, Steve, it's time. It never have I had a coach say, "Well, Michael, you're an idiot and you shouldn't be." No, they're all like, "Way to go, dude! You've grown. Go to the next level." Right?
Yeah.
And that's really how we need to approach it. And I love your 2 month start, because that's a good test to go, okay, who is this guy, and do we even connect? And I too many times, I'm sure, and you've probably never experienced this. You get a new client, right? And after a couple 3 sessions, they're like, I this is almost going in a totally different direction, because I came to
Yeah.
you for time management, and that's not really what we're talking about. But this is so helpful.
I one of the other things that I do is, before I'm even going to take on a client, I'm going to have some time with them to really meet with them, try and understand, what's going on with you, what are you looking for, to talk about how I work, and really to give them some experience of what it feels and looks like to be coached by me. Because
Mm,
there's really no way you can know that, and there's so many different approaches to coaching, and people do it so many different ways. I just don't think it's like buying a car without test driving. It's like it just not a great strategy, right? And so I really want to make sure, because I get it. It's a serious commitment, not just of money, but of time and energy. And I do not want people to make it lightly. And I also, by
yeah,
all means, want to make sure, because yeah, sometimes it's a thing where I'm like, what you're looking for, I'm not the right fit for. This person would be, or I don't think it's the right time, or whatever it is. Because I'm a big fan. This is a thing from Stephen Covey: win-win or no deal. Right. And I
absolutely.
think that's such a critical principle and valuable in so many places. And that's totally a thing that I want to do there. And so let's make sure it's a win-win, and what does a win-win look like? And if we can't find it, then it's no deal. No
That's right.
worries. Off you go. And if I can point you somewhere that would be a win for you, hey, I'm happy to do that.
100%, 100%. So one of the I think one of the challenges business owners have, and I've had this in the past, is the reticence, the hesitancy of actually reaching out and doing that first. Do you do a consultate? Do you do a free? What's that
Yeah.
first step? And how do you help somebody get past the just give me a call? I'm not here to sell you.
Right. So, I mean, so yeah, I'm always, I always, people get there. I've got a link. You can always sign up for a consultation on my website. I'm always happy to talk to new people about that. But I also have, so I have a daily email that I send out. It's a little old school. It's like, it's plain text. It's like, I'm not really doing a lot of social media stuff,
Yeah,
and it's short. Like, my intention is to basically, here's something daily. It's going to give you something to think about, something to apply, something to do, and I want to get in and get out. It's like going to be less than 200 words, often less than 25 words. It's sometimes just a couple sentences. And it's going to give also people a sense of, like, give you a sense of my personality,
yeah,
my views, my perspective. And so it's a good way for people to get a feel for who I am. I think my personality comes through in it.
yeah.
And so that's a real lightweight thing. They don't even have to actually talk to me. They can just subscribe. If they don't like it, they can unsubscribe. All good. But and then otherwise it'd be like, yeah, let's set up a consultation call. Let's talk a little bit and get an initial assessment. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, let's try, coaching around something and see how that goes for you. And, talk about more what it would look like. So it's just kind of a gradual thing, because again, the idea of going from, like, let's go from zero to, sure, you're going to commit to, 6 months of work with me at a minimum, is like, yeah, no, that's not how that goes.
That's
So
right.
we've got to build up to it. And I really, again, it's just so important that people are really comfortable with it. Number one, but two, again, that I am too, right? Win-win or
Yeah.
no deal.
Absolutely. And I can't, the last thing that you said is so important, being comfortable. I've had a couple coaches in my life that there was just, I don't know, there was a chemistry or something, and we just weren't a fit. They had great things to say. It just fell on deaf ears for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, this is huge. So, like, this is known in the realm of psychotherapy, where it's been studied to a greater depth. I don't know to what extent it has been in coaching, but in psychotherapy, they are aware that a huge piece of positive outcome actually relates to the connection and the relationship between the therapist and the client. And it makes perfect sense, because either it's true, very true in therapy, but it's still true in coaching. We get into some stuff that's a little vulnerable. It's a little bit uncomfortable. We're talking about some of your areas of struggle and difficulty, right? And you're not going to do that with somebody you don't feel safe with,
Right.
who you don't feel like you can trust, who you aren't comfortable just opening up with. And so that connection really is crucial. And that's part of why I take the time and energy that I do, because it's like, yeah, there's no way of knowing that without some experience. And it is a really, really key factor because at the end of the day, it's not the knowledge I have. Like it's 2024. You can get the knowledge anywhere. And in fact, you can get it quicker and better than you're going to get out of my head. What I do have is I do have the vision, I do have the experience, and I have the ability to engage with people in a way that's going to help get these things out. And that's really where the value comes in. But again, that only fits certain people, and if it doesn't fit you, hey, that's all good. I am definitely not a fit for everyone. And for some people, I'm a great fit.
That's right. And you'll only find that out when you reach out and have a conversation with Steve. So let me encourage you to hop on his website. Go. What is the best way to get to your website and to get on the email list or to schedule a call?
Sure. So you can just go to stevemccready.com. So it's my name. It's McCready. And so you can go there. One of the things I've done for you is I've set up, if people want to go to stevemccready.com/expert, what they can do is they can sign up there and they'll get a free email course I have. It's called Friction Fix. And it's basically some things to help you kind of get unstuck and get moving. So it's a series of just a few emails there and then get you on my list. You can also sign up for a consultation. Like all the links are on my website. So you can just go there and on the homepage, it'll point you wherever you want to go. So that would be the place I would encourage people to go and check me out. Always happy to connect with people on LinkedIn. I'm not as active there, but I am there and whatnot. But yeah, the website's probably the best starting point.
Okay. All right. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to grab both the website and then that /expert thing. And which is, thank you, by the way, for doing that to my audience, because that's good. I'm a big email fan. We do a daily email as well. And I just love it because it's personality. It's all text and it's just great. So I always push that. So go to his website. I'll have it in the show notes. Get the email. Get to know him, reach out for that consultation and start building a relationship. And I love this more than I would recommend Steve over like a group coaching program. There's just a different dynamic. I've been in both. I've had individual coaches like Steve. I've had group coaching. There's a different, and there's places for both. Don't hear me wrong. But
Totally.
If you really want a fast breakthrough and something that's going to be more long lasting, I have found one-on-one coaching to really be the ticket for me. I'm still in both. I've got personal and I've got group. But if you've tried the coaches, the programs, the groups, try this. Go to Steve's website, have a conversation. I think you're going to find that Steve's got enough stuff in his background and enough wisdom to help you find some breakthrough, right?
Right. I mean, the good news about being older is I've managed, having traveled a kind of weird roundabout journey, is I've accumulated a lot of things for my bag of tricks, I guess.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's really cool because sometimes it just takes one rabbit coming out of that hat to go, oh, is that what I missed?
Right.
But on your own, you're not going to find that rabbit. You're not going to understand it because we need coaches in our lives to ask us those questions, to let us see things a little differently, to go, hadn't really thought of it that way, and then guide you down the pathway.
Yeah. I wish it wasn't that way, because I spent the first like good 30 years of my life trying to figure it all out of myself. And but that didn't go so well for sure.
It doesn't. And the guy who just won the Masters, Tony Robbins, Stephen Covey, they all have coaches.
Right.
They're just in the background. We don't see them, but trust me, they all have coaches. If you want to be a really successful business person, human being, reach out to Steve, have a conversation. He'll help you understand the psychology behind success, and he's going to help you really take that next step, find the breakthrough so you can become more focused, more productive, more confident every area of your life. Steve, man, thank you for being my guest. Thanks for what you do and how you help people in so many ways.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to share some of these ideas with folks and to put some of the good out into the world. I really like to think this process in a lot of ways is planting seeds. I don't always get to see where they sprout or if they sprout or whatever, but I know that the whole thing is, if I just plant enough of them, there'll be some good stuff that comes with it. So I'm hopeful that there'll be some things here people can take and apply, whether or not they ever have a conversation with me.
That's right. Well, I appreciate you've planted lots of seeds today that I know are going to germinate and grow over time. So thanks for being my guest. Thanks for listening to Experts Speak. Tune in again next week for another great conversation. Take care. God bless.